Hello, David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience here at Dukes of London with somebody very special, a gentleman that I've known for many years, that I've wanted to interview for many years. But you know something? I didn't want to do it through Skype. It had to be someplace very special. It had to be in London. Ladies and gentlemen, Ajay Chowdhury. Ajay, thank you so much.
David, each time is a renewed pleasure. It's a real thrill to speak to you in this format, and I'm honoured to join your Bond community.
Well, thank you for being here. And by the way, this couldn't have been a more perfect setting. Dukes, you know them from the Vespers that they make. We're sitting in here in front of a fireplace. It feels like a very Fleming environment.
Yeah, I mean, Dukes is one of these wonderful Bondian establishments. Fleming allegedly sort of coined the Vesper Martini here, and Alexander at the bar knows what he's doing, and we've all survived the odd night at Dukes, and it's great to be here, and it's great to be with you. I'd say, David, you know your London very well. You've been here many times, and I think you're an honorary Englishman. So I think that's either a compliment or a cuss. No. Which way you take it.
No, high praise.
Yeah.
I consider that high praise. I'm definitely an Anglophile.
Yeah.
A lot of my knowledge of London is thanks to you. And let me just, I want to shower you a little bit, because I think many people, this is one of these interviews where either people go, I know the name, AJ, or I know the face, because you've been in the Bond community for such a long time. But I really wanted to highlight you, and really, it's not so much clearing the air, it's confirming the presence that you've had. You've been spokesperson, semi-official, official, unofficial. You've been tour guide. You've been aficionado. You've been all these things. Plus, you've authored some amazing tomes. You are this... You know what, I akin you to a Wikipedia of Bond and Bond experiences. So you are the pinnacle of that for me.
I think in the Bond community, the reason it's called the Bond community is that we all have our expertise. It's very flattering what you say. But David, I was recently on a brand's tour of London with you, and I learned so much. I know nothing. The more you learn, and yes, I know my stuff, and it's hugely flattering, and me and my co-author Matthew Field, who wrote Some Kind of Hero, which is an 800-page biography of the James Bond films, it's a huge work of research and stuff. But even then, I learned more from a day with you about not just James Bond, but about the brands, about clothing, about all those aspects. And I'm sure if I was with people who know about the cars or locations, you learn so much. So the Bond community is really a collection of scholars and experts and enthusiasts, and that's the key word, community. So I'm happy to be part of it, but I'm part of it, and I really think that to have you say that is an honour, because we all have our depth of knowledge in certain experts. I do believe there can be no one person in 2019 that knows all about James Bond. It's a real sort of mosaic of expertise, and I'm thrilled and pleased to be part of that greater world out there.
I think you've defined your success very well. Verbally, and that is, number one, you embrace all aspects of the Bond community. I've often said that I think the best teachers understand that they're constant students, number one, and number two is you accept all. You're the Statue of Liberty of Bond fans, in the sense that I welcome everybody to my shores, and you're not this individual that silos individuals, because you see them all as bringing something to the table.
Well, I'm not going to start building walls, David.
Oh, wow.
No, but
2 minutes in and he's controversial. I like that about a guest.
And speaking on the day after Brexit, so, it's we have to have a sense of humour about these things. The thing about the James Bond community also, it's very international. We're here at the heart of London. We're in Dukes. We're with our transatlantic cousin. But one of the interesting things about the Bond community, it's so international. There's the French, the Germans, the Italians, the Spanish, the Norwegians, the Swedish, the Brazilians, all of whom we know, have interacted with. Even in America, you've got your West Coast guys, you've got your Midwest guys, you've got your New York guys. It's all embracing, and that's what we love most about the James Bond character, from Ian Fleming, who was a Englishman of Scottish extraction, but really was an internationalist. That's one of the key things I think about the books. and the worldview Fleming had. He would go around the world in a time when not many people did, and if they did, they might remain insular and within their own silo. And the Bond films are the product of Ian Fleming plus a Canadian, Harry Saltzman, Cubby Broccoli, an American, and a complete international crew these days, from French driving experts and Swiss locations and the best of British and the best of American crews. That's what Bond is, and that's again what the community, the fan community, represents. And I think it's great to be open-minded and learn about different things.
Absolutely.
I love seeing when Marcus Conce posts those Brazilian posters, or Anders Frage keeps the Swedish end up, or Luc Leclerc, my president in France, or Andreas Potts in Germany. These guys are really knocking it out of the ballpark. So
and they're all
really
doing
great.
it at the core of something I've always called you out on, is this passion, this burning passion. But I have a question for you. We got to get down to it. There's passion and there's fandom. But the reality is trades, journals, AP wires, BBC. You're a consummate regular on BBC Radio and Newsway. So why you? What have you done in the Bond community to deserve this? And I mean that in the most humble way.
Thank you. It's not me. That's the first question. I am the spokesperson of the James Bond International Fan Club. I've been involved with various fan organisations. There was a website called Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, founded by a very good friend of mine, Panos Sambrakos in Greece, and that was the official voice of James Bond in the 90s. I'm part of that thing, and I've been a spokesperson over the years. So I rent my position, and I'm as good as the last guy. And you know what? There have been wonderful people before me, and there'll be wonderful people after me. So at the moment, I happen to have a little bit something to say. They call me, I never call them, and it seems to be that position. I think when one commentates on James Bond as a fan, one must bring a little bit of knowledge, a depth of knowledge to it. One must entertain, inform. One must, I think, as a member of the Bond fan community, one must support the James Bond brand. A lot of people believe that, if you gnash your teeth or howl at the wind, they're doing something. I view that James Bond is under enough criticism from the general press, from movie reviewers. We're always hearing how bad, irrelevant James Bond is. Ironically, they still want to quote for this over 50-year-old franchise. If it was so irrelevant and moribund, why are they even commentating on the title, on the casting? James Bond is still the Rolls-Royce of franchises.
Absolutely.
In terms of filmmaking, in terms of art, in terms of commercial success, there will not be an Iron Man 25. There will not be a Superman 25. There is a James Bond 25.
That's right.
And I think that let's celebrate it when we can. Bond is ultimately fantasy and fun. Let's not take it too seriously. We enjoy reading the books, we enjoy watching all these vlogs and podcasts, but ultimately it's a fantasy thing. So if it doesn't float your boat, then there'll be another one coming along in a while. Okay,
so let me gravitate to a word that you just used, the F word. Fun, not that other F word. And you know this about me, I've always seen Bond as wonderful escapism and childish fun. When I get a title, when I get a sneak peek, when I hear about a new director, and all these things, I see it in a very positive light as fun. And I see you do that as well, because the child in us comes out. But a lot of people in the Bond community see it as a different F word. Frustration, frustrated, and curmudgeony, and all these things. So I have a question. I'm going to set this up for you perfectly. What's something you love about the Bond community? But alternately, what is something that just grinds your gears about the Bond community?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. Let me take you back to a time before the internet, David. You were too young to remember this.
I see dream editing going on.
One of my good friends is a gentleman called Ross Hendry, who founded the James Bond British Fan Club in 1979. He came from a place of fandom for football, soccer. And soccer magazines always were printed out when they were castigating their team for losing. So he felt James Bond was that sort of thing that could withstand criticism. So in 1979, the James Bond, it was called 007 magazine, and it was started off And I was reading, I got these back issues, how terrible Roger Moore was as James Bond, how awful Octopus he was. The Bond community has always been critical of the Bond films. Now, of course, we love Roger Moore, we love all these things. So each phase has its detractors, and that's fine, let them detract. There's nothing wrong in that. I get frustrated, but it's a different hat when you want to sort of... I like the Bond films, I love the Bond books. Some I like less than others, some I prefer, but I pick the gold out of what there is, and for me it's enthusiasm. David, I think you and I do quite stressful jobs in our real life.
We do.
And we have real problems in real life. Bond is escapism. Bond is stuff that we retire to when in the real world people have real problems. So if I don't like a title, if I don't like this or that, it's fine, something else will come along. Sometimes I grow to love it. There are many aspects of James Bond that people, after a while, they go, I didn't like that at the beginning, I do like it now. And in a way, because it is escapism, because it is fun, you pick what you want from it. But generally, if you read enough Bond books, if you read enough comics, if you watch the movies about Bond, it becomes... It's the journey, it's not the end. That to me, even with us talking, when we see a Bond movie, I think lots of people said this, it's all the fun we've had along the way. And that to me, everyone will resonate with that. It's a journey.
It is a journey, and I love that people see these kind of impact moments that happen. I mean, a journey is a series of a collection of perceptions, and I have to tell you that you framed it very beautifully, because I see Bond as my therapy. I could be laying on a couch, and for those of you that seek counseling, whether it's medical or otherwise, I applaud you for that. It's a very brave thing. Mine is Bond. I spend 30 minutes a morning having my coffee, watching vloggers and bloggers, and I feel good about the day and a little bit of escapism. I think you've done the same, but you did something that I applaud that not everybody can do, and I'm going to lift it up. By the way, hashtag Bond25 Fitness Challenge as I lift this up. Oh my gosh! You and your co-author Matthew Field built this. Why? What was your impetus to do this?
Let me explain a little bit about my absent co-author, Matthew Field. Matthew Field is a best-selling author. He's an expert on many films. He works in movie marketing. He works with many major movie stars. He's very busy. He's traveling all around the world. And this is his fourth book. He's just written a wonderful fifth book on the Italian Job, 50 years of the Italian Job, which makes this look like a small pocketbook, because that is the huge tome. He's a brilliant writer and a brilliant film journalist. I do my bit as well. And together, we crafted this book we both work in various aspects of the film industry. And we both felt that there was a book there that explained the context of the James Bond movies. This is a big book. It's by no way a definitive book. But what it does do is delve into the studio story, the background of Eon Productions somewhat, and how and why the creative decisions came about in the Bond films. We interviewed more people than any other set of authors ever interviewed for a book before. We interviewed them in hindsight as well. We got some people that had never spoken about James Bond before, people like Christopher Walken, people like Joanna Harwood, who was the first writer of the Bond novels, of the Bond films, Dr. No, and various other people in between. We interviewed executives from MGM, from United Artists, and we got to interview Sean Connery, Roger Moore, Pierce Brosnan, Daniel Craig, and George Lazenby, who incidentally kindly wrote the foreword for us. So we came at it from huge James Bond fans, and we stood on the shoulders of previous James Bond giants like Steve J. Rubin, Raymond Benson, Lee Pfeiffer, Dave Worrell, Paul Duncan, Andrew Lycett. These authors had written stuff that doesn't exist before. I love reading something, even if it's a small bit, something we haven't known before. Good James Bond journalism, Matthew and I call it. So that's what we attempted to do with this. There are mistakes, there are problems with it, but we like to think it was written as a reading experience as well.
Right.
And we love the fact people like the book generally, and we're very flattered that people enjoy it, and it was a thrill for us to write. It was a real labour of love.
Had to have been.
As you can imagine, it's annotated, it's detailed. We're trying to set some of the records straight, and in the era of the internet, having kind of annotations and sourcing was important to us.
Yeah.
But hopefully, it's an ongoing text. We're hoping to update it for next April, for No Time to Die, and it's hopefully going to be a matter of record. The problem is, when you write a book like this, you realise that we could write 800 pages on each James Bond film.
That's true.
Because the more you find out, the more you realise the less you know. So hopefully it will carry on, and we're thrilled that people support it, and we hope people enjoy it. But it's an ongoing process, and we hope that people reading, like there are many people who have many books or DVDs on James Bond, and this is to complement that.
Right.
And those who are new to it, hopefully they'll get a fresh contextual story. We try to explain as well, what the process of filmmaking, what an option is,
Right.
the process of writing screenplays, the logistics of it, stuff that people wouldn't necessarily think about.
Right.
And that's what Some Kind of Hero is. Some Kind of Hero refers to all the behind-the-scenes people as well. It's not just about the
James Bond
people.
as an entity. Yeah.
It's a whole bunch of these people that we celebrate the work and life of. We track through Ian Fleming trying to get the films made, the producers Harry Saltzman and Cubby Broccoli, and that whole journey right up into the road to Bond 25. This current edition ends with the hiring of Danny Boyle as the director. So we leave it on a cliffhanger. How could we have known that so much would have happened? But we're thrilled, and we thank you for the opportunity.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Well, I will tell you, as an entirely biased consumer of this book and a reader of this book, one of the things I liked is any Bond fan is constantly hearing about little stories. What I think this did was it created connective tissue.
Yeah.
So not only hearing these little stories, you could see how the entire journey of discussion plays out in that book. But this isn't your only contribution. I know you've made many, but there's something else sitting on this table, and of course my eye goes right to it because it's our old friend, Roger Moore. What am I holding right now?
You're holding an MI6 confidential special magazine written last year, which celebrated the life and works of Roger Moore. Matthew and I, again, were kindly asked by MI6 to confect a celebration of Roger Moore's life. So what we did there was we interviewed as many of Roger Moore's co-stars as we could get. I think about 46.
Oh my
we
gosh.
go from the Sublime to Kubi Sharjah, who was the occult voodoo shop assistant who worked with Roger Moore in Live and Let Die.
Oh, that's hysterical.
Straight through to Grace Jones and Christopher Walken in A View to a Kill, his co-stars who generously gave their time and stories. So it's a wonderful memory of Roger Moore. We'd often heard what a consummate professional and nice guy Roger Moore was, but this details actually the craft of Roger Moore as an actor, the sense of Roger Moore's generosity on screen, giving co-stars close-ups, his technical skill. Sometimes he gets angry with people. There's a great story by Jack Claff, who was the chauffeur in For Your Eyes Only, who explains the owner of the Rolls Royce who was driving was quite nervous, and Roger Moore issues an F word and says, "Just let us do our job." So Roger was a tough professional when he needed to be. Gareth Owen, who was Roger Moore's manager and a good acquaintance and a wonderful stalwart of the Bond community, was very helpful, and indeed we covered the memorial service of Roger Moore held at Pinewood Studio when they unveiled the Roger Moore stage at Pinewood. That's in this book, in this sort of souvenir edition, and so we were thrilled. We grew up with Roger Moore. It was an honour to celebrate him and to shine a little bit of light on his craft, on his skill and his generosity as an actor and as a human being. So it's our honour to do that.
It's amazing. So, all right, you ready to play a little bit of a game with us? You feeling relaxed enough to do that? Have we gotten there to that point?
I wouldn't know. I've never lost.
He had to go there, of course. All right, here we go. So it's a Saturday afternoon, you're relaxing, detoxing from the week, and suddenly you receive a phone call. You pick it up rather innocently, you don't recognize the number, and it's somebody at a very senior level from Eon. And they say, AJ, you've never raised your hand for the accolades, but we want to surprise you. And we want to provide any Bond experience your heart desires. It could be to be an extra in No Time to Die. It could be to be sweeping up a set. It could be hang gliding from a cliff with a cigar in your film. It could be any experience you want. What is that experience that you wish for?
Eagle-eyed viewers and consummate Bond fans will have seen something called the Open University documentary on the making of The Spy Who Loved Me. This was the most in-depth documentary about the making of a Bond film ever, 6 parts,
oh my gosh,
going behind the scenes from script stage to the end. I would make a new and fresh one of those documentaries about the through line of a James Bond film from beginning to end, and
gosh,
that would be a wonderful opportunity. I doubt it could or would ever happen these days, but it's really insightful, it's beautiful. I like to think of myself as a James Bond journalist. I'm constantly exploring, so what I collect really, apart from experiences, is information and stories, and I would love to track a Bond film from the beginning to end and present the case study of a Bond film. James Bond, and I think this is true for you, David, is a portal to learning about so many other things, about foodmanship, drinkmanship, travel, geopolitics, women, guys, fashion, filmmaking. All of us start as James Bond fans, but we read outside, and I really love that aspect of James Bond that brings us into different aspects of the world, edutains us, so to speak. And I think the making of a movie is it's the most collaborative art form in the world, from costumes, from writing, from locations, from all those aspects. And I think that's what's fascinating. James Bond is a case study.
Right.
We'll follow it through James Bond, but actually it works through all aspects of filmmaking. It's why we're here in London. What I love is that when Ian Fleming created James Bond, he could have had no clue as to what he was creating. Fleming died on the 12th of August 1964, and if you ever get a chance to go to Wiltshire and the village of Sevenhampton and visit his wonderful memorial obelisk.
I have.
You have indeed.
There's a picture of me as a, again, young, fresh-faced, round-faced individual, and there I am. Loved it.
Well, I'm thrilled
Very
that
quiet.
you made that pilgrimage, because it is an interesting place. It's quite sad and melancholic, and you go there, but you reflect on all this that we've started. All this was created in the mind of one man, and that's a real legacy. To create art, be it a poster, a painting, a vlog, writing a book, the creation of stuff is really important, and whatever you do, if you do it with a full heart and a full soul, you add into the world. I think that's what's inspiring about what you do, what Fleming did. You can see another example in dear old Harry Potter. If you go to Edinburgh, J.K. Rowling, this single mother, wrote a book in a cafe, and look at the industry, so it's always there. And that's what I think Bond brings, and the tracking and the making of a movie would be a thrill for me, and to some extent we sort of do that, and I'm lucky enough and privileged enough to report on it.
Well, by the way, you just said a word that I think all of us have something in common, all of us, with Ian Fleming, and it's not the misogyny, the murder, and the drinking like you would imagine. It's actually creating thrills. This whole idea of creation, whether what you do or what I do with these videos, we're trying to thrill people, and we're thrilling ourselves, and this just happens to be a side effect. So, question for you. I want to talk about something very visceral, very immediate, because part of Bond is this immediate, almost Rorschach test of whether it's thrilling or not. So we went from Bond 25, even though we keep calling it that by habit, to No Time to Die. What was don't tell me about how you feel about it now. Tell me about when that title first appeared and you saw it. What was your feeling about it?
When the title was revealed, I think on the 20th of August 2019 at 5 p.m. UK time, No Time to Die.
Boy, you didn't take that into a specific area at all, yeah.
This will be a matter of record, you see. When you first hear anything new about a Bond film, it takes a bit of time to adjust to.
Right.
This title, as I've described, is like a jeweled hand stroking a white Persian cat with a flute of chilled Bollinger on the desk beside and a silenced Walther PPK on the desk in front. It was uber Bondian, No Time to Die. It screams James Bond, sometimes sort of satirically so, sometimes it's too Bond. But like all things, come April 2020, when the picture comes out at cinemas, when we've heard the theme song, the wonderful theme song, over those Daniel Kleinman titles, it will settle down and adjust. And it will become part of the furniture of being a Bond fan guy. I speculate on what kind of title there would be. I would love to see the remainder Fleming titles used, or Shards of Fleming, Shatterhand, the Hildebrand Rarity, Rosico. But a movie title is very important. It's a huge marketing thing. Does it translate around the world? Does it generate good press? Do members of the public buy it? And that's the key thing. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. If you know how the sausage of a movie is made, you know exactly why a title has many things going on, and that must have been sweated out through various committees at various levels. So who am I to blow against the wind? Quite frankly, now I like it. I like what it can be. I like the potential of it, and quite frankly, I love how it's been embraced by the community, that Futura black font, everything is No Time to Die, and in a way it sort of sets the agenda. So, you know, we're one hair on the tail of the dog that is James Bond. As much as we like to be influencers, we are totally influenced. And I think it's important to understand that it goes that way round. We support, we enjoy, we can criticise. I could say I hate the title, I could say I love the title. It doesn't matter what I think. We're representative of the wider community. And come April 2020, when we're all queuing up to buy tickets, and we see it many times at cinema, you know, it won't really matter. It's the title of a Bond film then would be Sparrow's Tears. It doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
We'll enjoy the experience, the James Bond experience of watching this movie.
Look what he did there. All right, AJ, first of all, I love this. Because, I mean, first of all, if the camera wasn't going, we'd still be having a conversation like this. AJ and I, they can't get us to shut up. They sometimes have to kick us out of London so we stop talking. But the reality is I'd love you to end this conversation on, what does the future, call it vision if you want, hold for AJ? What do you hope for, and what do you see for yourself in the future in the Bond community?
Matthew and I are hopefully going to update our book and do a few other projects together. My time with James Bond is as long as I'm involved in it, I'm happy. When it's my time to die, I'm happy with that as well. As I always say, we rent our time now and never take anything for granted. All these experiences, all the things that you and I and various other people have done, there's a lot of hard work that goes on behind the scenes. This is the tip of the iceberg. And the key thing I need to do is keep my enthusiasm up. I've never done this as a professional hobby. It's a professional hobby for you. We don't earn any money or any stuff from that. It's
Quite
got to be fun. And as long as it's fun and I'm enjoying it and the experiences and the people are great, fine. I do other things. There's other stuff I'm involved in which, you know, isn't for here. And there's lots of things. I think you do too. And I love the ongoing experience. Right now, let's get No Time to Die out of the way. The future of James Bond is just beginning. The copyright will run out on the James Bond character in a few years' time. What we see of the Bond world will metasize. It will become all-encompassing, like Sherlock Holmes, like Tarzan. These characters, we're probably going to get faithful adaptations of the Ian Fleming stories. We're probably going to get an amazing new James Bond number 7, Eon 7, and we're going to see the franchise continue. What we're seeing is just the beginning. But James Bond will return, and I think it's going to return in surprising ways. If someone had told me in 2002, for the 40th anniversary, would Die Another Day, that James Bond would not only be critically at an even higher level, both literary-wise and also cinematic-wise, I wouldn't have believed you. And I think I'm hopeful. I think the Bond experience has showed us that this franchise has gone on with the Fleming family owning the literary copyright, the Broccoli family owning the film copyright. We need to have a faith, it's a bit of faith in what they're doing,
Yes.
and enjoy the experience and enjoy the journey. And that's what I see in the future, the continuing journey. And as long as we enjoy it and are having fun, that's great. And the minute we don't, we retire gracefully and leave it, pass on the Bond baton to the great people out there, the future, the green shoots of Bond fandom and the Bond community, which all are part of what you're celebrating, and I love that.
Well, I love it too. And first of all, I mean, what you're saying is that really this is no time to die, it's a time to live. It's a time to create thrilling moments through whether it's literary works, through interactions. And AJ, as long as you're a part of the ride, I'm in as well. I think you're in as well. Thank you for being here.
Bless you, David.
This has been amazing. So this has been AJ Chowdhury and David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience. And guess what? You hear this. We're going to see you real soon. Take care. Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to be up on the latest from the Bond Experience, just click on this subscribe and subscribe to our channel. You're going to get all the latest and greatest information, plus some exclusive content. And by the way, speaking of content, here's something especially for you, just because we know you. Talk to you soon.